Hello friends, welcome back to DLK Nursing Academy. Today we are come back with a new session or continuation section of Human Anatomy and Physiology Introduction part. Today we are going to discuss about cavities of body. In this session we are going to discuss cavities, what are the cavities are present in our body and what are the components of that cavities. If you are new to my channel, go and subscribe DLK Nursing Academy and press bell icon to get notified and view the complete session of this video. And if you have any doubts regarding the lecture, you can put your doubts on comment box. Okay, don't waste our time, let's go. Cavities of body. Body cavities are a space within the body that helps to protect and separate and support the internal organs. It means here body cavities are a space. Body cavities are a space within the body that helps to protect. Space means that is all like there is a hole formation will be present and space will be present in that with the helping protection, separate and support to the internal organs. Okay, in that bones, muscles, ligaments and other structures separate the various body cavities from one to another. That means the cavities will be separated by the bones or ligaments or muscles. Okay, what are the cavities are there present means here we are going to discuss three cavities, totally four cavities. In that, cranial cavity. Okay, wait a second. Cranial cavity and thoracic cavity. The next, abdominopelvic cavity. In this abdominopelvic cavity, we are going to discuss abdominal cavity and pelvic cavity differently. Okay. In this, first we are going to discuss cranial cavity. Cranial cavity is a 8 fused cranial bones form hollow space of the head called cranial cavity. It is fused by the 8 cranial bones. Which are those cranial bones means here frontal bone anteriorly and occipital bone posteriorly, sphenoidal and ethmoidal bone inferiorly, and parietal bones separately superiorly, and temporal bones laterally. These bones are explained in last section of skeleton system. Skeleton part. In that skeleton part, we have discussed what are the frontal bones, occipital lobes, sphenoidal and ethmoidal bones, and paired parietal lobes and temporal bones. We have discussed in that last session. The cranial cavity is occupied by the brain. Okay, a cranial cavity is occupied by brain. Okay, here what are the cavities in the body means you can see this structure, you will understand. In skull we will see the cranial cavity. In the chest we will see the thoracic cavity. This means here presence of lungs will be present. And abdominal cavity, it is totally abdominopelvic cavity. In this, two types are there: abdominopelvic cavity and abdominal cavity and pelvic cavity. In this abdominal cavity we will see the GI system. Okay, and in the pelvic cavity we will see the pelvic bones and pelvic intercostal organs. Okay, here the next is thoracic cavity. The thoracic cavity is the one of the major cavities of the body. Thoracic cavity is the one of the major cavity. Remember, the major cavities of body is thoracic cavity. Here the thoracic cavity, diagram of the thoracic cavity. Here, you can see here thoracic cavity. Here thoracic cavity. This is a thoracic cavity. In that thoracic cavity, we can see the we can see left and right clavicle bone or collar bones and cervical vertebra. Here cervical vertebra will be present. Here this is the sternum part, and there is a costal bones, costal cartilages. This is the costal cartilages and intracostal cartilages. The space between the costal cartilage is the intracostal cartilage, and this is the ribs. These are the ribs. And here one presence of diaphragm that separates the thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity. This is the diaphragm, and below the diaphragm you can see, or posteriorly you can see the lumbar vertebrae. Here L1. Okay. Then next we are discussing boundaries of thoracic cavity. Boundaries of thoracic cavity. Boundaries of thoracic cavity anteriorly what will be present means the boundaries of thoracic cavity. I will explain with the diagram. You can see anteriorly sternum and anteriorly part of the ribs. Anteriorly you can see the sternum. Anteriorly we can see the sternum here, and sternum and anterior parts of the ribs and their costal cartilages, and anteriorly we can see the costal cartilage also and intercostal cartilage also we can see, and posteriorly the back of the lungs. Okay, posteriorly bodies of 12 thoracic vertebrae and intravertebral disc and posterior parts of the ribs. The posterior parts of the rib will be C, and there is 12 thoracic vertebrae. 12 thoracic vertebrae, T12. 12 thoracic vertebra will be present the back side of the lungs, and also intravertebral disc will be present. If vertebra is present means in that intravertebral disc also presence. On each side 12 pairs of vertebra and intercostal muscles are there. Here on each side, here 12 pairs of ribs are there. Here also 12 pairs of ribs are there. In that intercostal muscles will be present. Intercostal muscles will be present in the both of that side. And superiorly by the structure forming the root of the neck. Superiorly means upward direction. The root of neck will be formed. Here. And inferiorly by the muscular sheath known as diaphragm. Inferiorly, this is the muscular sheath. This is inferiorly, we can see the diaphragm here. Okay. The contents of thoracic cavity. Thoracic cavity, what will be contents? What are the organs will be containing in thoracic cavity means trachea, bronchi in number 2. Trachea will be 1 and bronchi will be, it is divided into 2 ways, and 2 lungs, 1 pair of lungs and 1 pair of bronchi will be present. And heart, aorta, superior and inferior vena cava will be passes, and esophagus will be present, and lymph vessels will be present, and nerves will be present. What are the contents means trachea will present, bronchia and lungs and heart, aorta, superior and inferior vena cava and esophagus will be present. Remember these contents. Okay. The next, this is extra knowledge. What is mean by mediastinum? Okay, I will explain this. And mediastinum. The mediastinum, the central part of the thoracic cavity, is an anatomical region called mediastinum between the lungs, extending from the sternum to the vertebral column from the first rib up to the diaphragm. I will explain here for taking diagram. Here you can see this is diaphragm. You can see this is diaphragm and diaphragm and thoracic anatomical result called the space between the two lungs. Space between the two lungs. Space between the here. Space between the two lungs and space between the lungs extending from sternum to the vertebral column. Here extending from ear to here. This space we can known as mediastinum. Mediastinum. The next part is the next section is abdominopelvic cavity. The abdominopelvic cavity is the other major cavity. It is also one of the major cavity in that of the body. It extends from the diaphragm to the greona, and it is encircled by the muscular wall of the abdomen and bones and muscles of the pelvis. Here abdominal cavity we can see it's a major cavity, and it extends from the diaphragm to the greon, means the upper part of the excretory system. Greon means the upper part of the excretory system, or you can say a pelvic region also. It is encircled by the muscular wall. The mall of it is encircled means it is circled, means it is covered by muscles and muscles of wall, that is bones and muscles of the pelvis. Okay, you can see here this is the abdominal cavity. This part we can say abdominal cavity. This part you can say abdominal cavity. The abdominal cavity can be divided into two regions, that is abdominal cavity and pelvic cavity. In this video I see in the diagram of that. I see in the I see in this is abdominal cavity. This is abdominal cavity. In that we can divide abdominal cavity and pelvic cavity. In that first we will discuss abdominal cavity. Abdominal cavity is the largest cavity. One of the major also, one of the largest cavity means this is abdominal cavity. Largest cavity is abdominal cavity. For purposes of description, the abdominal cavity is divided into 9 regions by the two lateral ventricle planes, that is we can say midi-inguinal and or midi-clavier, and horizontally two horizontal planes, that is transpyloric plane and stand tubercular plane. I will see the figure and I will explain. Laterally we can see the midi-clavier line. This is lateral part. We can see the midi-clavier line, both midi-clavier lines, and horizontally we can see transpyloric plane and transtubercular plane, we can say. And 9 regions of the abdomen: epigastric and epigastrium. 9 regions. That is epigastrium. This region we can say epigastrium and episternum. You can say episternum. That means the above the sternum part or at the sternum part. Right and left hypochondrium. Here left and right hypochondrium. This part you can say right and left hypochondrium. Right and left hypochondrium. Next, umbilical. Below the right and left hypochondrium, you can see the right lumbar part and left lumbar part. And the next umbilical region. This part you can say umbilical. Where the umbilical will be present, that part we can say umbilical site. And below the right lumbar or left lumbar, we can see right iliac fossa and left iliac fossa. And below the umbilical cord, umbilical region, we can see the hypogastrium, and in between the left and right iliac fossa. You can say hypogastrium also suprapubic region. And the next, quadrants of abdomen. For simplicity, clinicians divided the abdominal into 4 quadrants. For clinical workers, we can divide it 4 quadrants, that is right and left and upper and lower quadrants, that is the median trans umbilical planes, and divided into 3, into these quadrants. That means 4 quadrants means here midiclavian, horizontal and umbilical. Okay, the next, boundaries of abdominal cavity means where the and superiorly what present, inferiorly what present, anteriorly and posteriorly what will be present. Boundaries means superiorly the diaphragm separates the thoracic cavity. So superiorly means here I will draw the one abdominal cavity. You can see this part is abdominal cavity. Okay, imagine this part is abdominal cavity. In that superiorly, this means superiorly means upward, inferiorly means downward, and anteriorly means this side, and posteriorly means back side. Superiorly the diaphragm separates. Here the diaphragm will be separated. The diaphragm will be here. The diaphragm will be separated here from here. And inferiorly the continuity of pelvic cavity. Here the infinity means here continuity of pelvic cavity. Inferiorly, superiorly, inferiorly, anteriorly and posteriorly. Anteriorly abdominal wall. The anteriorly abdominal wall will be present. Abdominal wall will be present. The muscular sheet of wall will be present. Posteriorly lumbar vertebra will be present, and posterior abdominal wall will be present. Posteriorly lumbar vertebra will be present, and the covering sheath of the muscle sheath will be also present. Laterally muscles of abdominal wall and lower limbs. Laterally here muscle will be present and lower 2 limbs will be present. This is the boundaries of abdominal cavity. The abdominal cavity, what will be contents means the contents of abdominal cavity, we can see the stomach, small intestine and large intestine, and most of the large intestine will be present, and liver, gallbladder and bile ducts, pancreas, spleen, kidneys, adrenal glands. If kidney will present means adrenal glands will be also present, because of above the kidney we can see the adrenal glands. Anteriorly or superiorly we can see the adrenal glands, or you can say suprarenal also. They are in 2 numbers. And numerous blood vessels and lymph vessels, nerve vessels and lymph nodes will be present. The next is pelvic cavity. Here you can see the abdominal cavity. What are the structures will be present? Liver will be present, gallbladder will be present, part of cut here, and next ascending colon, cecum, appendix, small intestine, descending colon, transverse colon, stomach, spleen, and pelvic cavity. The pelvic cavity extends from the lower end of the abdominal cavity. You can say Grios also say lower abdominal cavity. Here I explained here continuity of abdominal cavity. Posterior part of the abdominal cavity. This is the posteriorly what will be present means here. Pelvic cavity. The boundaries of pelvic cavity means superiorly what will be present. It continuous and with the abdominal cavity. Superiorly means it is continuity of abdominal cavity. Superiorly upward compared to the ear. This is now it is superior and it is inferior. We are studying here pelvic cavity, so you can see. Superiorly you can see the abdominal cavity, and inferiorly pelvic floor will be present. Pelvic floor will present. Anteriorly pelvic bones are present, and posteriorly sacrum and coccyx in the behind the pelvic sacrum, and laterally two innominate hip bones will be present. I will explain here. I will draw schematic representation of pelvic. Okay, sorry. Imagine this is pelvic. Imagine this is pelvic. Don't laugh. Okay. Here you can see anteriorly means continuity of abdominal cavity here, and superiorly you can see superiorly pelvic floor will be present. Pelvic floor will be present means inferiorly pelvic floor will be present, and anteriorly pubic bone. Pubic bone means here, this part you can say pubic bone will be present, and posteriorly I will draw diagram of posterior diagram of I will draw posterior diagram of pelvis. Here coccyx will be present, and this is a sacrum, posterior part of pelvis. Posterior part of pelvis, sacrum and coccyx will be present, and laterally we can see this is the lateral part. We can see lateral hip bones will be present, innominate bones will be present. What will be content in the pelvic cavity means urinary bladder will be present, lower parts of uretrus and urethra, lower part of uretrus and urethra, and lower part of colon including sigmoid colon, and rectum will be present, and anal canal will be present. In the male, prostaglandins, semen vessels and spermatic cords and vasa deferens, ejaculatory ducts and urethra will be present. So here male reproductive system will be present in that pelvic cavity, and female uterus, uterine tubes, ovaries and vagina will be present. Here we have studied the cavities. This is the complete study of complete notes or complete lecture of cavities of body. Okay, this is completed cavities of body. If you are new to my channel, once again I will tell, if you are new to my channel, please go and subscribe my DLK Nursing Academy and get notified plus bell icon. And if I did any mistake of this lecture, please comment it and advise me if any advice will be there, please put on comment, and see the complete video and make sure bell icon and get subscribe please. Okay, thank you all.